So this is part 3 of Sri Aurobindo's The Life Divine, the part 3 of the video series. You should watch the first 2 parts if you haven't already. This is from chapter 2, The 2 Negations. Significant, especially, is the drive of science towards a monism which is consistent with multiplicity, towards the Vedic idea of the one essence with its many becomings. Even if the dualistic appearance of matter and force be insisted on, it does not really stand in the way of this monism, for it will be evident that essential matter is a thing non-existent to the senses only, like the pradhana of the Sankhya's, a conceptual form of substance. And in fact, the point is increasingly reached where only an arbitrary distinction in thought divides form of substance from form of energy. Matter expresses itself eventually as a formulation of some unknown force. Life, too, that yet unfathomed mystery, begins to reveal itself as an obscure energy of sensibility imprisoned in its material formulation. And when the dividing ignorance is cured, which gives us the sense of a gulf between life and matter, it is difficult to suppose that mind, life, and matter will be found to be anything else than one energy triply formulated, the triple world of the Vedic seers. Nor will the conception then be able to endure of a brute material force as the mother of mind. The energy that creates the world can be nothing else than a will, and will is only consciousness applying itself to a work and a result. What is that work and result, if not a self-involution of consciousness in form, and a self-evolution out of form, so as to actualize some mighty possibility in the universe which it has created? And what is its will in man, if not a will to unending life, to unbounded knowledge, to unfettered power? Science itself begins to dream of the physical conquest of death, expresses an insatiable thirst for knowledge, is working out something like a terrestrial omnipotence for humanity. Space and time are contracting to the vanishing point in the works of science, and it strives in 100 ways to make man the master of circumstance, and so lighten the fetters of causality. The idea of limit, of the impossible, begins to grow a little shadowy, and it appears instead that whatever man constantly wills, he must in the end be able to do. For the consciousness in the race eventually finds the means. It is not in the individual that this omnipotence expresses itself, but the collective will of mankind that works out with the individual as a means. And when we look more deeply, it is not any conscious will of the collectivity, but a superconscious might that uses the individual as a center and means, the collectivity as a condition and field. What is this but the God in man, the infinite identity, the multitudinous unity, the omniscient, the omnipotent, who, having made man in his own image, with the ego as a center of working, with the race, the collective Narayana, which is a name of Vishnu, who, as the God in man, lives constantly associated in a dual unity with Nara, or the human being. So, what is this but the God in man, the infinite identity, the multitudinous unity, the omniscient, the omnipotent, who, having made man in his own image, with the ego as a center of working, with the race, the collective, the universal man, as the mold and circumscription, seeks to express in them some image of the unity, omniscience, omnipotence, which are the self-conception of the divine. That which is immortal in mortals is a God, and established inwardly as an energy working out in our divine powers. That's from the Rig Veda. It is this vast cosmic impulse which the modern world, without quite knowing its own aim, yet serves in all its activities and labors subconsciously to fulfill. But there is always a limit and an encumbrance. The limit of the material field in the knowledge, the encumbrance of the material machinery in the power. But here also the latest trend is highly significant of a freer future. As the outposts of scientific knowledge come more and more to be set on the borders that divide the material from the immaterial, so also the highest achievements of practical science are those which tend to simplify and reduce to the vanishing point the machinery by which the greatest effects are produced. Wireless telegraphy is nature's exterior sign and pretext for a new orientation. 6. Yeah. The sensible physical means for the intermediate transmission of the physical force is removed. It is only preserved at the points of impulsion and reception. Eventually, even these must disappear. For when the laws and forces of the supraphysical are studied with the right starting point, the means will infallibly be found for mind directly to seize on the physical energy and speed it accurately upon its errand. So he's saying telepathy. There once we bring ourselves to recognize it, lie the gates that open upon the enormous vistas of the future. Yet, even if we had full knowledge and control of the worlds immediately above matter, there would still be a limitation and still a beyond. The last knot of our bondage is at the point where the external draws into oneness with the internal. The machinery of ego itself becomes subtilized to the vanishing point, and the law of our action is at last unity, embracing and possessing multiplicity, and no longer, as now, multiplicity struggling towards some figure of unity. There is the central throne of cosmic knowledge, looking out on her widest dominion. There the empire of oneself with the empire of one's world. There the life in the eternally consummate being and the realization of his divine nature in our human existence. This is the end of part 1 of the 2 negations, which was the refusal of the materialist, or the denial of the materialist. Part 2 of the 2 negations is the refusal of the ascetic, which I'll read in part 4. I'll make a new part 1 actually, the Sri Aurobindo video series.